impossible! How? This isn't over. This will never be over.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to share with you guys the build guide for my the third character that I played for 3.25, which is my Bleed Bow Slayer. Okay, without further ado, let's begin. So let's first look at the mechanics around bleeding. Okay, so bleeding is an ailment that deals physical damage over time. So I'm just going to take some key points from this wiki right here. Number one, bleeding is based on the base physical damage of an attack that caused it, which is 70% per second. But it can be higher if the target is moving, which is tripled into 210% per second. Duration, the base duration for normal bleed, unless it says otherwise, is 5 seconds. And what else? Okay, critical strike that deals physical damage will not automatically cause bleeding. All physical damage must successfully roll chance to bleed to cause bleeding. So it's not like elemental ailment like chill, freeze, or shock, where critical strike inherently automatically inflict the elemental ailment itself. Bleed needs to have the chance to bleed attached to it as well. So normally damage from critical strike gains 50% damage over time multiplier, but otherwise critical strike for hit-based attack do not contribute to the elemental ailment. However, let's cover a little bit on what changed this league. So for this league, we can now aggravate bleeding. So what aggravate bleeding does to an enemy is that previously, as mentioned just now, when the enemy is stationary, it takes 70% damage per second, but when moving, it takes 210% damage per second. So previously, there is a way to apply that conditional accelerated bleeding by using ensnaring arrow. But now they've changed the mechanics to aggravate, so that any attacks can now cause aggravate, because it's an inherent chance to apply that exists on the 3 items or Ascendancy. So anyway, what it does is basically the same thing as what ensnaring arrow used to do, which when there's a bleeding apply, if the bleeding is aggravated, then the bleed counts as though the target is moving. So it takes the 210% increased damage per second from before. So this is now something that's way more accessible than last time, in which last time it was only exclusive to ensnaring arrow. And another thing that changed this league was Perfect Agony. So Perfect Agony, what it does is that it overrides your damage over time multiplier with ailments to be equal to your attack critical strike multiplier. So now, if the build takes Perfect Agony, you can now skill the normal critical strike multiplier and not the plus damage over time multiplier that traditionally damaging ailment used to take. And so what else? So with that, the build will be designed around Perfect Agony to utilize that critical strike multiplier, which also synergizes very well with the unique Angel Summony, where it says your critical strike do not deal extra damage, but it also has a huge amount of increased global critical strike chance, which can also be applied. Which can also be increased even further when applied catalyst to it. And also another thing that they changed this league was, let's see, the Rupture support, whereby previously Rupture is something that exists only on Deadeye, but now they've transferred it to become a support gem, so it's now accessible to everyone else. Okay, I actually already played a critical bleed bow build in previous league, but I was using it. I was using the Deadeye Ascendancy to play them. That is because only Deadeye has access to Rupture. Since they move Rupture to become a support gem instead, I believe the current Ascendancy that's best played for Bleed Bow is now Slayer. And actually this is entirely because of Slayer, because of Ralakesh Impatience and Olisha's Delight charge taking, and because Slayer, let's see, and because Slayer has this unique Ascendancy node here, Masterful Form, where it says your maximum endurance charge is equal to your maximum frenzy charge, and it also gives +1 to maximum frenzy charge. So with that node, we can actually just stack frenzy, and that will translate maximum frenzy charge to maximum endurance charge. So endurance charge receive a huge buff this league, where previously it gives elemental resistances per charge that is also counted together with the stats that can roll on gear. But instead now it gives elemental damage reduction per endurance charge, and this thing cannot be, how to say, it cannot be reduced via elemental weakness. It cannot reduce via minus maximum resistances. So this is something on top of what we have from our resistances, and it allows the character to become very tanky when you pair a high amount of endurance charge together with 100% spell suppression, which is something the Bleed Bow can actually do. Okay, first up is the pros and cons of the build, and as usual, I'm just going to read off the note section that I written inside my POB. And here's a heads up. I've uploaded a build intro video like I don't know, 5 or 6 days ago, depending on when this video is going to be uploaded. I just want to say the POB from back then is actually not accurate, because there's some weird interaction with POB with Rupture, where it can actually calculate Rupture multiple times as if the Rupture stack is more than 3. Anyway, so this is the correct figure that you're looking at right now. So just a heads up. Okay. Anyway, pros and cons. Sorry, I've rambled long enough on the build intro, so I'm just going to do this quickly. Pros and cons. Pros: excellent clearing speed because we're using Corpse Explosion from Hemophilia. Snipe playstyle, so we can kite enemies and off-screen enemies using that. It has great DPS for endgame. As you can see here, it has 36 million combined DPS, and it's also very tanky for the reason that I've already mentioned just now. The cons: it's unique dependent. It has the channeling playstyle because since when you channel skills, you're actually standing still, and if you played PoE long enough, you know that can get you killed quite easily. But the good point is that the build is very tanky to play around with that playstyle. Number 3, playstyle needs a little bit of getting used to, because most people have not played channeling skill that much, so there's something that people might not be really used to. And finally, it's slightly more difficult than traditional Bleed Bow builds. This is because you can level up as a normal Bleed Bow, but when you want to actually transition to Perfect Agony, you need to have like there's a lot of steps that needs to be taken, which I covered at the top section inside the POB. And this is the note that I written about the Rupture calculation thingy that where it's inaccurate. So just make sure you don't tick anything else when linked with Rupture, and don't tick the Rupture that's linked to other skill as well, because that will also contribute to that calculation somehow. I'm not really sure why. Okay, next up is the offensive and defensive layers of the build. And actually, I really recommend you guys to watch the first video that I uploaded on the Bleed Bow Slayer concept, because it's a 20-minute video, and it's quite elaborate on explaining the how the build really works. So I'm just going to just burst through this note section here. Okay, number one, offensive layers, we're using Snipe, Tornado Shot of Cloudburst plus Pierce. Okay, traditionally Bleed Bow is played using Puncture for single target. Problem with Puncture is that it's quite unreliable to land fully charged Puncture, and if you miss, your bleed DPS is gonna fall down like a rock. Tornado shot of Cloudburst is an alternative to Puncture, where it has high enough effectiveness of added damage, but it's also much easier to land, as you can see from the gameplay video. It also has good enough coverage, which is also useful if, let's say, for example, you're fighting Maven 10-way bosses or what. Number two, Frenzy Charge and Affliction Charge stacking. So this is the Relakash Boots plus Maven's Bet Olisha's Delight. And I'm not going to cover this much because I'm pretty sure most people already know this by now. Just get these two unique and you're basically good to go. Number three, Perfect Agony and Crit Ailment Build. Okay, so this is what we're going to utilize, where it says, whereby Perfect Agony changed so that your dot multi for ailment is based on your attack crit multi. And attack crit multi, the good thing about attack crit multi is that it's way more accessible compared to dot multi, and it also usually rolls much higher. So yeah, so because we're using crit ailment, we can also easily apply Rupture, because Rupture needs to have your attack deal bleeding and also crits at the same time, and also aggravate, because there's a note on the tree right here in this bleed cluster, bleed wheel, where it has 25% chance to aggravate bleeding on target you critically strike, and this adds up to become 50%. So it allows you to aggravate much easier compared to other bleed build. Defensive layers, we have armor, spell suppression, stun immunity, elemental ailment immunity. Okay, so armor is something that we get from evasion from 3, and also from grace, molten shell, flask. Spell suppression is something we get from rolls of here, helmet plus body armor, and the rest is from the skill tree to reach 100%. Stun immunity is something we get from Unwavering Stance right here, where it says cannot be stunned. And finally, elemental ailment immunity is something we get from our aura, Purity of Elements. Number 2, life regen, life overleach, and high flash uptime. So life regen is something we get from the tree, and also summon Holy Relic, which is a utility skill that the build incorporates. Life overleach is something from the Slayer Ascendancy, and it's helped by tattoos because typically our single hit damage is not very strong, so usage of tattoos is recommended to achieve leech rate cap. And finally, flash uptime is something that we have because the build uses Watcher's Eye flash charge gain on crit, and also taking this wheel right here, Careful Conservationist, where it reduce flash charge and reduce flash charge use, and also increase flash charge gain up to 40% from these 3 nodes alone. And finally is endurance charge stacking, which I already covered. So when we have maximum endurance charge equal to our frenzy charge, we pad it together with Relakash Boots. It gives 100% uptime of our endurance charge benefit. Okay, up next is our Mastery, Ascendancy, and whatnot. First up is our Mastery. So the important Mastery is here. Number 1, Bleed Mastery, where it says 80% crit chance to bleeding enemies. This allows us to reach 100% crit chance much easier. Mana Mastery, reservation for reservation efficiency, and these 3 keystone, where sorry, these are all keystone. Where number 1, Perfect Agony, so it allows us to scale our damaging ailment via crit. Iron Reflex for evasion to armor conversion, and Unwavering Stance for stun immunity. For Ascendancy, first up we'll take Brutal Fervor to gain that Overleech and reduce damage taken. Second, we'll take Bane of Legends for more damage and well, actually just more damage for unique bosses during leveling. And third, we'll take Masterful Form, and usually by the time you take Masterful Form is when your level requirement is around the stage where you can equip the Ralakash Impatience and Olesha's Delight. So it's useful to take this node around the third labyrinth. And finally, Headsman for culling during endgame. For bandits, just kill all for 1 point. For Pantheon, I recommend taking Soul of Arakali for reduced damage over time and chaos resistance. But you can also take Lunaris if your chaos resistance is already capped, which mine is already is already at 75%. And for minor Pantheon, Rislatha will always be my favorite. So yeah. Okay, now we'll move over to the gem setup. Okay, number 1, our main skill. We're using Snipe plus Tornado Shot of Cloudburst. So Snipe will be linked to Tornado Shot of Cloudburst, Vicious Projectile, Deadly Ailment, Unbound Ailment, and Brutality. Okay, this is our main skill. And Unbound Ailment, in my opinion, is mandatory to extend the bleed duration, because we only have the default 5-second bleed, and if we apply Rupture, which also, where is it? Where it says target stake, sorry, no, bleeding expires 25% more quickly per Rupture. So because we have 3 stacks of Rupture inflicted on enemy, so that means our bleeding will expire 75% quicker. So extending the duration of our bleed applied is something that's necessary for the build, and otherwise the duration will be reduced too much. So this playstyle needs something to get used to, as I mentioned in the earlier section of the video. So you just tap a bit longer for a single stage shot for clear, but you can you also need to hold down the button to fully charge up the snipe to inflict maximum bleeding on tougher enemies. Okay, clear skill is Split Arrow of Splitting. So it's linked with Rupture, Mirage Archer, and Vicious Projectile. So as you can see from the video, you only need to shoot once in a while, but it's also useful to inflict Aggravate on enemy, and also Rupture, because it also has Rupture link as a utility skill. Okay, so Rupture is something that is only applied once you've taken Perfect Agony, so just a heads up. And during leveling, I recommend to link the clear skill with Hex Touch and Vulnerability before you get Vulnerability on Hit Ring, because that's the other reliable source that you can have vulnerability during early game. Third, Mana Forge Arrow utility, so it's linked with Frenzy and Rain of Arrows plus Maim plus Rupture. So Frenzy to gain Affliction Charge once you have the Maven's Belt, or just simply gain Frenzy when you don't have cash yet. Rain of Arrows is a multi-hitting skill that we only use to inflict Maim, Rupture, and also Aggravate. Aggravate is not linked because it's something that is rolled on that is available on the passive tree. Next, Dash. So standard Dash setup, Dash plus Second Wind, cast when damage taken, Molten Shell is our standard guard skill. Aura, we're running only 3, Precision, Pride, and Purity of Elements, so it's unlinked, you can slot it wherever. And during early game, if you need to manage your mana pool, I'd recommend playing around with Precision level. And finally, in a flexible utility slot, I use Holy Relic plus Mid Shield because it provides good life regen at low investment. And this is something that's actually flexible. You don't have to use Holy Relic plus Mid Shield. You can use whatever you want. For example, if you want more spells on cast when damage taken, I just like Holy Relic's regeneration because I think the cost effectiveness is very high for such a low investment, especially when you are not socket stuff. And finally, we reach the gears and explanation section of the build. Okay. So first up is our weapon. We're using a high fist bow with high crit chance and high crit multi. So just a heads up, attack speed is something that's nice to have, but it's not mandatory because the only thing, the good thing it does is allows you to channel up to maximum stage faster. But I find that if your attack per second on your bow is at least more than 1.2, it's actually good enough. Well, at least in my opinion. But it is also nice to have, and you can go for it if you want. But the important part in the suffix is the crit chance and crit multi. And the best base for the bow is actually Assassin's Bow because it has implicit roll for crit multi, or Harbinger's Bow because it has implicit chance to critical strike chance. And these two bows have low attack speed and high average hit. So it's a good base for inflicting bleed. For our quiver, endgame we're using rare DPS quiver. You can so just roll life and as many DPS rolls as you can fit into. This includes the normal bow crit multi. So that's for me much more accessible compared to like one with hunter influence quiver. But for leveling, I recommend you take drill neck because it gives +1 pierce. So this is something that's important. You need to get +1 pierce at least in one of the gear, and the option is either in the quiver itself, where you can use penetrating quiver base, and the other one is on the helmet, which we'll cover next. Okay, so helmet we're using rare or upgrade, and endgame version is upgraded to double influence rare. So the important rule is life resistance plus spell suppression, and the best implicit is mana reservation efficiency of skills. And this is something that I repeated from the above. It's important to get pierce on either of these slot, either quiver or helmet. Okay, next up is the body armor. So we're using just a normal 6-link body armor and upgrade it to double influence for endgame. You want to roll life, resistance, and the ever important spell suppression. For implicit, you want pride, aura effect, plus crit multi for attacks. And gloves, we're using a hemophilia, and endgame try to get one that is corrupted with +1 frenzy. Hemophilia is essentially the gladiator explosion node in a single gear slot, and it helps the explosion by a huge margin. So it's very nice for clear. Boots, we're using Ralakash Impatience. So this is best in slot for the interaction with Maven's Olisha's Delight for charge stacking shenanigans. Belt, using Olisha's Delight. So you can use Ralakash Impatience alone, but if you want to use Olisha's Delight, make sure you have the boots already, and it can be paired together for huge DPS upgrade. And for endgame, you can find one corrupted with plus crit multi, for which essentially translate to dot multi for the build. For the rings, okay, so for early game, I recommend using Praxis, Kikazaru, or Kikazaru for mana, or you can even use Chevron's Ring for mana. And for endgame, you need to use 2 rare, but one of them need to have vulnerability on hit. And this, because both of these are rare, so these are the stats that I believe you need to roll on the ring. Number 1, strength, high enough strength roll for the build. Physical leech as mana. This is very important because otherwise we don't have any other sources to leech mana. Mana regeneration rate, I'm not sure if it's really necessary, but I believe it's really nice to have, as you can channel for much longer, because your base mana regen also counteracts with the mana drain from channeling snipe. Vulnerability on hit, this is something you get from Warlord's Influence Ring. and then life, resistance, and finally an open prefix to craft reduce mana cost of skill. This is so that your mana skill for speed arrow and for the mana force utility is as low as possible, so that your channel can trigger them as frequently as possible. Amulet, we're using Ungil's Harmony, so that's the best in slot for this build for transitioning to Perfect Agony. And you can use Catalyst on it to have an even higher crit chance. It can reach, a perfect roll can reach 420% crit chance. That's equivalent to slightly more than 8 power charges, just for reference. The anointment, best anointment is Disciple of the Unyielding. Jewels, we have number 1, Light of Meaning. We're using physical roll, and we put it here in our duelist tree section right here, so that all this node also gives increased physical damage. And then the next jewel is Watcher's Eye. We want to have increased physical damage while using Pride, and also flash charge when you deal critical strike while affected by precision. And then this for this socket, we use a Natural Instinct to gain all these smaller nodes benefit. In this socket, we use Intuitive Leap, so that we can take all these nodes without passing through the smaller ones, so it saves us a couple of points. And here is just a normal rare jewel. I recommend you to take at least life plus reduce effect of curses here. And did I miss anything? Natural Instinct, jewel, Intuitive Leap. Yep, that's all of the jewels for the build. Tattoos, so these are good to have but not mandatory. In order of importance, number 1, chance to blind on hit, to blind bosses to get 100% hit rate on endgame bosses. Attack damage, leech has life, because otherwise we need to attack by a lot to have our life leech rate cap. And then life regen plus reduce curse effect is just something nice to have for any build. And finally, it's for flash, we have 5 flash, and all of them are using rare, so you can actually change whichever you want. For example, if you want to slot in maybe something like a Progenesis or what. Anyway, number 1, Bleed Life Flash, 2, Jade Flash, 3, Silver Flash, 4, Sulfur Flash, number 5, Basalt Flash. And the suffix that you want to roll are Reduce Curse Effect, and Percentage Regen, Life Regen, the one you get from Katarina, Percentage Evasion or Armor, and finally Movement Speed. You can this is something that you can play around. For me, only the curse effect and the percentage evasion or armor is important. The rest you can play around with whatever you want. And I think that's pretty much what I want to cover inside the build guide. And something I want to highlight again: please be careful when you tinker around inside the POB, to make sure that you do not tick anything extra when it comes to Rupture. As you can see here, inside the configuration, I'm only ticking just one attack with Rupture, and not even ticking this Frenzy, because Frenzy is a second attack. And my other skills in Mirage Archer's setup, I also leave Rupture unticked, because if you see here from the effective DPS mod, we have Rupture already applied at 30% per Rupture stack. But if I click another Rupture, it will increase the DPS, and somehow inside effective DPS mode, it also applies the second Rupture stack, as if it's a local limit instead of a global limit. So I'm not sure why. Just be careful when you want to play around with this Rupture configuration. And that's about it for the build. As usual, if you have any question, just post it inside the comment section in the YouTube video, and when I get around to it, I'll answer it to the best of my ability. That's it. Thank you very much. Bye.